Hello everyone, welcome back to Ethaniel's Archives. I'm Ethan, and today we're going to be back at it with Ted the Caver. Now, I looked at some of the stuff for the first video, and it seems like y'all have enjoyed it a lot more than the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners series. So, I will be continuing this series. Now, if you like this series, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment down below anything interesting. And yeah, so to begin, where we left off is they found a cave. Well, they didn't find the cave. The cave was a cave near this guy's house, and they found a virgin passage, basically meaning that it's a passage that no one's explored yet. And you know, all fun and dandy. Things couldn't possibly go wrong. I mean, yeah, totally cramped in an area that with no way to escape. But yeah, so I will go from there. But yeah, this was uploaded January 27th through 28th of 2001. B and I were both excited to get back to the cave and get to work. I figured with about 4 hours work we could be in and see what was on the other side. We had to arrange to borrow a DeWalt cordless drill to bring with us. We also had masonry bits to drill with, sledgehammers, 2 to break up the rock, bullpens to insert into the drill holes, and a few other tools that we ended up not using. Getting the tools down to the worksite proved to be a challenge. One of us would climb down the rope and stop at the ledge or good resting place, then the other person would lower the tools. We kept repeating this routine until we got to the bottom of the cave. Then we had to drag the tools to the hole. It took about an hour to finally get to work. B took the first turn at the hole. After an hour of exhausting work, we could tell that we were not getting through in one session. We kept trading off after we worked ourselves into a sweat. One would take a break and get some food and water while the other one went to work. The routine went like this. To begin work, we had to get down on our knees and do our best to avoid smacking our heads on the ceiling. Working in this awkward position, and we would drill into the wall around the hole. That was difficult work. We really had to push on the drill, and it was still a slow process. Then we inserted the bullpen into the hole and hammered on it until the rock broke up. Then we would repeat the process. To give you an idea of how slow it went, this typical size rock that would break off was about a fingernail size. If we broke off a large piece about 1/3 the size of my palm, it was a cause for celebration. From time to time, for variety, we would just wail on a cold chisel with a 5-pound sledge. It was a slow process. The problem with the sledge was that we couldn't make a good swing because of the tight quarters. And in blue he says, even though we spent many hours and several trips working on the hole, we never did find a better technique for widening the hole. The drill bullpen hammer got the best results for our efforts. We came up with some crazy ideas for breaking up the rocks. Everything from TNT, never seriously considered, to hauling a generator to the mouth of the cave and running an extension cord down to a jackhammer. Sorry, I'm having technical issues. Something's going on. We even thought about using liquid nitrogen to freeze the rock and make it more brittle. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. Those who know, would that actually work? Would it? Because I'm actually curious. Part of me doesn't think it would actually work. And then the other part of me is like, maybe. I don't know. After a couple of hours of hard work, we realized that our limiting factor was what our limiting factor was going to be. It was about then that our first battery met an abrupt death. We had a second battery, so we swapped them out. The second battery lasted a little longer because we hammered and chiseled a little more often and a little longer each time. Finally, after three more hours of drudgery, the second battery died and we called it a night. Woo! We could tell we had done some work in the cave, but it was not much. For the first time since we've gotten the cave, we sat back both of us took a break. It was nice to check out the results of our hard work. Then we noticed the howling again. It seemed a bit louder than the last time we were there. We just figured that the wind was blowing a little stronger outside. What we could not figure out was the rumbling. It too seemed to be louder and more frequent. This time, we could not attribute the noise to trucks. The road that the trucks drove on was not very busy to begin with. At the time of night, it should be dead, yet the rumbling continued. It seemed to be coming from deep within the passage. B said he could ask some veteran cavers what could be causing the noise. We didn't spend a long time admiring our work. We still had to haul up the gear and out of the cave. Actually, we left some of it in the cave. It was still difficult work. What made it worse was that we were both exhausted. Our original plan was to be done with this cave and hit a couple of other caves in the area the next day. Instead, we decided to crash at a nearby motel, charge up the drill batteries, and go back to Mystery Cave. I'm going to see the photo. Yeah, it does look a bit wider in the picture. I won't be showing y'all it because I'm doing this and I can't figure out a way to record it, my screen and that at the same time. My journal goes on at length about the night after we left the cave. Stop, Xfinity. Quit creating this stupid pop-up. That's not good. Again, technical issues. My side. Yeah, sorry if this is taking a while. It's just that this stuff is. Oh yeah, why don't you just cover up the button I'm trying to press with a stinking pop-up ad? Yeah, my journal goes on for a length about the night after we left the cave. We got a room, dinner was excellent. I didn't sleep good despite the fact that I was exhausted, etc. We both slept in, so we got a late start back into the cave. Second day on the cave went about the same as the first. We worked until both batteries were dead. Again, we were still not even close to getting through. The howling and rumbling continued as the day before. So, that's the end of that entry. I'll probably do 2 entries in this video, because how long has this video been? Yeah, it hasn't been going on for a while, some talk about it. The howling and rumbling is a pretty interesting detail, because like howling, like makes me think some sort of like creature, but at the same time, not really, because like whenever wind is blowing through a narrow passage, it will create like a whistling, almost howling noise. So that so that said, it's like probably the wind, meaning that there's something opening up back there, but it's not all the time. So what is back there opening that thing up? That's what's really concerning me. Yes, I think there's something back there, but what is it that's opening up the passage? And then the rumbling, yeah, the trucks is interesting. So, hold on, what's going on? Like the truck's parts is interesting. Because, like, yeah, I'd assume it was a truck myself. Had I not, if I was also, like, thinking like these people. Because I've seen a lot of people say that they are kind of dumb in this story. They do some really dumb things, like, for horror characters. And I'd actually object to that, due to the fact that they know what they're doing. They are cavers, and it's like a sense of exploration. If you found a new neck of the woods or something that you never seen before, you'd want to investigate it, or at least I would. Maybe I am crazy, who knows? But yeah, that's what I gotta say about this part. And also the sledgehammer's part in like that cramped position. Oh my! Like I can almost like envision myself in that situation, like being on my back and just like trying to like hammer away with a 5-pound sledge. And yeah, oh wait, it wasn't up on the roof, it was like on the wall, which I don't know why I kept thinking, like whenever I heard this verse being read, I kept thinking it was like on the roof of the cave, like it was just a hole that was in the roof, and they were just trying to like it was like just going over the certain something, but no, it's a hole inside the wall. So yeah, this next entry is called On Caving. Oh yeah, this is that interesting. Okay, and I might end it on this just because this brings some context to a lot of the stuff. Yeah. It doesn't have a date because this is a like a side note he's making to like help explain like a lot of the context. Before I continue with my next journal entry, I thought it might be helpful to the readers to explain a little bit about caving and about the atmosphere in a cave. As I reread and think about my description of the cave, I notice that much of the language I use in my caving journals and descriptions, or lack thereof, assume that the reader has a knowledge of caving and what it's like to be inside of a cave. In other words, I write my journals for me. I will take this time to give a more detailed description of the cave. I'll tell you about what it's like while we worked in the cave, and I will summarize our feelings up to this point. The cave was discovered several decades ago when construction in the area unearthed its entrance. From that time to the present, it has been visited by mostly locals in the area and avid cavers in the region. Beer cans can be found intermittently in the cave, mostly in the upper half. When the cave was first entered, it was probably beautiful. Dust, graffiti, vandals, pigeons, and regular use have diminished its appeal. There are still places in the cave where small formations remained undisturbed, as a reminder of what the rest of the cave used to look like. To enter the cave, one must have a good length of rope in order to rappel down to onto the rock. A nearby tree serves as a good anchor point. Once the rope is tied to the tree about 20 feet away from a small cliff, it can be tossed over the edge of the cliff into a small ledge 16 not 16, 15 feet below. Cavers can then descend the short distance of and to the entrance. Once inside the cave, artificial light must be used. My light source of choice is a battery-operated, helmet-mounted light known as a tag light. Safe causing calls for at least 2 sources of backup lighting. For my backup lighting, I have a mini mag light mounted onto my helmet and another helmet-mounted light in my pack, which I always carry with me. I also have glow sticks that I carry with me. They're not considered a good source of backup light by some, but they are good to use for taking lunch breaks, and they could be used to get out of the cave if the other sources fail. I'm gonna pause here. Yeah, that is probably a great idea. My question is, are they like the party glow sticks or like the industrial, like actual like glow sticks? Because if there's those, then yeah, serious stuff. But if they're the party glow sticks, those aren't gonna light up nothing. Like those are just gonna look cool. I guess like if you have multiple of them, and you can create a trail that you can follow in case you need to get out. But I wouldn't. What is that? After a short climb over large rocks, the caver comes to a large pit. The same rope is used to reach the bottom of the pit. The drop is only 50 feet or so, but it's not free hanging. In other words, you can't slide straight down the rope, which is preferable. You have to snake your way around sharp rocks as you descend. The ascent is made more difficult for the same reason. The pit varies in diameter from 10 feet to 3 or 4 in a few places. The walls are lined with sharp white rocks called popcorn. Let me correct that. It used to be white, but now it's covered in dust and dirt that was kicked down from above the years of caving. The popcorn makes it painful to brush against the sides of the pit. My choice of clothing is Levi's, t-shirt, gloves, and knee pads. I usually leave the cave with a few scrapes, but at least I am comfortable while I climb around. The temperature is stable year-round. It feels cool in the summer and warm in the winter. We have gone on freezing days, and 10 feet into the cave it is warm enough that coats are not needed. It is a good temperature to work in, as we learn. For this size drop, I usually use a figure 8 descending device. For the climb up, I attach myself to the rope using a Petzl ascender, but I climb up on my own without using the device. It is merely there as a safety attachment in case I slip. Other cavers have their own method of getting up and down. At the bottom of the drop, the caver gets to do some crawling for a while. There is a small room about 6 by 6 feet at the bottom of that gives the caver a spot to leave his harness and descending gear. Since there is no more steep drops, the harness is not needed and it will only get in the way. Once the caver gets down to the 6 by 6 room, he can take a break under a ledge while the rest of the party comes down. Then he must drop onto his knees to negotiate a 10-foot long passage that is only a few feet high. This is where the knee pads come in handy. The floor is covered with soft dirt intermingled with bits of broken rocks from above. The thin layer of dirt does nothing to soften the blow to the hands and knees as the caver works down the crawl space. As a reward at the end of the crawl, he gets to drop to his belly and scoot under a tight squeeze. Not really tight, just something low enough to make a caver scoot along the dirt. Once the caver gets to the other side of the squeeze, there are a few feet of crawl space then the cave opens up enough to stand. Hold on. For most of the rest of the cave, the caver can stand or at least stoop. The cave splits off into several passages at this point. 2 routes wind up around rocks and crevices and come to a abrupt dead ends. The other two lead to small pools of water. Each route is fun to explore. They all lead on for 100 feet or so into a gradual downward slope. Most of the time, the caver can walk upright into the passages. Other times, he will have to climb over large boulders or occasionally crawl on hands and knees. Water is a common occurrence in caves. I've been told that one of the local residents was one of the first people in the cave and that his cousin dove into the pool using scuba gear. He said that the cave continued down for a couple hundred feet underwater. What they were hoping for and what happens frequently is that the passage comes up somewhere, a virgin cave passage to explore. I would never scuba dive in a cave. Like, I might go caving at one point in my life, but never like scuba diving in a cave. Like, I'm not gonna combine those two because I don't want to get stuck underwater and then whenever I finally get up I have to like escape the cave and no. Unfortunately, I don't possess the knowledge to give more detail about the types of rock in the cave. When we were drilling, we would have some parts that were easier to drill than others, and there were different colors of rocks referred to the photo taken in the cave, but that is the best I can do to describe the makeup of the cave. At this point, the cave splits into 4 routes. The two passages that are dead ends are immediately left to the caver. Straight ahead and to the right are the passages that lead to pools of water. The entrances to the passage on the right is the largest of the 4. Its arched opening rises nearly 10 feet in the air, ending a mere foot below the cave ceiling. As the caver enters the passage, the ceiling gradually lowers until it is about 6 feet high. It continues at the same height for about 40 feet, then for the 40 feet that the passage travels in at a continuous direction. This section of the cave resembles a hard rock mine. Its arc nearly perfect and the floor flat and easy to walk on. It is easy to picture rusty mine cars on rail lines and dust-covered miners with blistered hands gripping dual picks. The pseudo-mine comes to an end, and the caver is once again forced to drop on his hands and knees and get reacquainted with the floor of the cave. This time the crawl lasts about 20 feet. The floor is sloping genuinely downward for the first half of the crawl, then it gets fairly steep and slippery. Able-bodied cavers can still climb carefully down the slippery slope. When I go with B, I carry the end of the rope that we use to get down to this point. I usually need to tie another short length of rope to the first rope to make sure he can use it to reach the bottom. Crawl lasts a few feet down to the bottom of the slide. Over the next 10 to 12 feet, the caver slowly begins to regain the standing position. I'm going to pause at that. Yeah, I almost forgot about the fact that he did mention that B did get in a caving accident not like long ago before this, and he was told he was never going to walk again. But he's walking quite well and basically being able to do this stuff, so that's kind of interesting. After walking a few feet and climbing down a short drop off, the caver arrives at a small level area that has a passage. Hold on, I'm going to check my recording time. Yeah, we're good. Passage leading down immediate left. The passage in 75 feet later at one of the small bodies of water. To the right is a rock wall. Straight ahead is an indentation in the wall which goes about 3 feet. On the wall at the rear of the indent is a small hole about the size of a softball. To get near the hole, the caver ducks under an overhang and kneels upon the rocks that rise above the floor by a few inches. By the time the caver reaches the point, he is either warm or sweating and the first thing he notices is the cool breeze blowing out of the hole. It was my recognition that this hole is a potential doorway to an unexplored portions of the cave that ultimately led to this telling of my experience. As it has been my tradition for all the years I've been caving, the party reaches a point in the cave, usually the deepest part of the cave, that all lights are extinguished. Complete blackness fills the eyes. For a moment, the individual caver strains the eye muscles, focusing in and out with the expectation of catching a crumb of light somewhere in the false night. After several futile moments, the caver turns his head at a sound, perhaps another caver, only to have the other senses return and then heightened. Sounds, smells, feelings that have been overlooked to this point come racing to the caver in perfect detail. The paint of their own behind sitting on the cave floor, the smell of dust, sweat, guano, don't know what that is, the sound of modern material shifting on the old age rock as cavers attempt to find comfort in this solid foundation. At the back of every caver mind is at this time is what if a person had to climb out of the cave with no light? Would he make it? Would he find all the turns and bends that got him to this place? If not, would a rescue party find him in time? The depth of the rock recognized at this time. Well, hold on. I'm going to pause on that. That's bringing back things to Floyd. The passage was called Floyd's Tomb. I think we've gotten to that point, yeah. But yeah. The depth of darkness recognized at this time is something that is rarely experienced outside of a cave. Many first-time cavers erroneously declare that they have to hold their hand to within 2 or 3 inches of their face before they can see it. The truth is that the human eye is incapable of seeing an absence of light. If they did not hear something coming towards them, they would feel it before they saw it. Complete and total dark. This exercise is a great way to remind people to take backup lighting. As we proceed to work in the cave, we developed a system pretty early, and little changed in succeeding trips. First time in the cave, hold on. What? First time in the cave, B took first shift at chipping away the opening. After about half an hour, he needed a break, so I took over. He told me what worked best, and I continued doing the same. We tried new things from time to time to use new muscles, but usually stuck to the same method. We would use the masonry bits and press on the drill as hard as we could and drill out a hole in the rock. Safety glasses and dust masks were worn while working. When we would insert the bullpen and hammer into the rock and break out small chunks of the cave, then we would drill another hole and repeat the process. Occasionally the drill would hit a soft spot in the rock and that step would be shortened. We'd work until we became too tired to continue, and then B and I would trade. While one of us was working, the other one would remain in the darkness and either eat or drink or just lay down on the cave floor, padded by rope bags. After just a few rotations, we were tired enough to catch a nap while taking our break. The only light we used was the helmet light on the head of the worker. Since it was pointing towards the hole, where was I? Hold on. The resting person was left mostly in the dark. This was a welcome benefit, since the resting person was usually well resting. The rest break also had a chance to cool down a bit, which didn't take long in the cooler temperature of the cave. Fortunately, the temperature of the cave allowed us to work pretty hard and not overheat much. I remember how I frequently looked in the hole and thought, hey, it's big enough. I can squeeze through, only to be disappointed by my attempt. However, even after the first attempt and failure, I knew I would keep working on the hole until I got through. Despite the fact that I knew it would take many more hours of hard work, it actually became an obsession with me. I tried to get out of the cave and work as often as I could. I hoped that the passage led to a larger undiscovered cave that we would be the first ones to enter. I guess the explorer in me wanted to find a new frontier in the cave. Since B is such an avid caver, he was motivated by the same desire to find an unexplored cave. What we did find was not at all what I expected. Okay, that's a pretty long description, but it just basically paints the picture to get some like imagery and like put some like context to it, which I'm kind of glad they did, just because context is everything. If you don't know the context of what you're reading, it's kind of hard to get interested, and so, and the fact they put it in the middle of the first parts of the story, like, really immerses you in the fact that, hey, yeah, this is a guy that's writing this for himself, so he wasn't expecting to post it, and now that he's posted it, he's like, oh crap, none of these people know what I'm talking about. Guess I gotta explain that. And it's like interesting, like how he will use certain. He still uses certain language that that is like almost like caver talk. So it's like he's like still got that ingrained in his mind. So, but he's like actively trying to like dumb it down for us who don't know what's going on. And yeah, which makes it really interesting. So I'm gonna end this video here. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please leave a comment down below if you want me to do anything else. I might, so yeah, and I know it's been a while, like, since I've posted. I'm sorry. I've been busy with life. I have a life. I'm not like a lot of other YouTubers that don't have a life outside of this. But yeah, I say that as a joke. Please don't shoot me. So anyways, sorry, I'm getting distracted by everything. So if you like this video, I think I've already said this, never mind. And I will probably be releasing some new, well, not releasing, but I'll probably be, doing, another game review sometime soon, cause I finished Dead Space 2, and I'd like to review that, and I've also finished Resistance 3, I'd like to review that, along with, I also might try another stab at doing a gameplay series. It won't be Walking Dead Saints and Sinners though, because that, I don't know why I recorded it that, I may like scrap, like I'll keep those videos up, but I might like scrap that playthrough and like just do a whole nother playthrough, well, where it'll be more parts, but it'll be also recorded in a reasonable manner of like one day at a time, because yeah, my house is too hectic to like do that properly. And I'd also like to do other VR games. I've got Batman Arkham Shadow, and I've also got Resident Evil 4 VR. And I might like try a stab at some VR chat worlds, like some horror stuff. See if you'll like it, or maybe like, you know, just stuff like that. But please subscribe, and thank you for watching this video. I'll see y'all.